The Proactive Parenting Academy invites you to a one-week-long parenting conference with 20 speakers from around the world: Nigeria, USA, UK, Sweden, Australia, Asia, amongst others. Theme: Proactive Parenting at a Time Like This. Date: 22nd August till 27th August 2022. Time: 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. daily. Venue: live on the Proactive Parenting Academy pages on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Speakers: Vivian Ijoma Ani, convener, Dr. Ife Obano, Dr. Vivian Okoye, Professor E.A. Itoma, Professor Umwacha Ogechukwu, Runke Adeniyi, Prince Alex Madujemo, Fina Chichi, Professor Henry Odianose Limonde, Sandra Oluwadari, Chris Chokonyeri, Deaconess Ijoma Uba Onjuku, Adeh Jones, Sheun David Olorinde, Nene Chinye Miriam Oluwagbonhu, Mohe Francis Oko, Mabeth Chima, Chinyere Obina, Neme Boham. Come, let's build more capacity for productive parenting.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Proactive Parents Conference 2022. I'm so excited, honestly. I'm so excited to welcome everybody who is coming to this platform in the next 7 days. It's going to be an amazing one, and we are grateful to all our speakers. Our speaker is already here, but we want to give a brief bio of what the Proactive Parents Conference is all about. The Proactive Parents Conference is a platform where we reach out to parents of young children to help them, equip them, teach them, impact them on the journey ahead. We are all in this together, and that's why we are calling on all parents of young children to be part of this movement so that we can raise healthy children and have a better society that we all crave for. This year, we are having this theme, Proactive Parenting at a Time Like This. Why are we having these conversations at a time like this? In this conference, you will know exactly why we need to have these conversations at a time like this. Because many of us do not even understand why we are doing all of the things we are doing now. And we don't even understand why we need to prepare our children for the world that we live in. I came across something in the scripture, recently that also spoke to me about this theme, and is in First Chronicles, First Chronicles 12, where the scripture is talking about the men of Issachar. It took the men of Issachar, to have the understanding of the time that they were living in. So many of us parents of today do not understand that the season and the time we live in is no longer the time when we were raised. Our Generation Z and our Generation Alpha children cannot be raised the way we were raised, or the exact templates that were used for us. And so it needs preparations for us, the parents, so that we can prepare our children. So welcome again to this platform. Stay tuned. It's going to be an amazing one. Thank you for being here. Our speaker, the first speaker, is already here. We'll be reading his bio in a moment, and then we'll bring him in. So stay tuned as we get to introduce our speaker of today. The first speaker of today. I call him my boss.
Adeh Jones. He's a full-time house husband and a stay-at-home dad. He is a parenting coach with a niche in behavioral management, a certified marriage and family therapist, certified cognitive behavioral therapist, practitioner of neuro-linguistic programming. He is a TEDx speaker, writer, and author of 13 books. Popular amongst them are The Full-Time House Husband, Contemporary Parenting, Frustration-Free Parenting, and others. He resides in Jos, Plateau State, with his family. Ladies and gentlemen, please make welcome Mr. Adeh Jones.
Hello, boss. Can you hear me, sir? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you equally hear me?
Yes, I can. Welcome, sir. Thank you for being here. We are glad to have you.
I'm so excited to be part of this conference.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. So
Thank
you
you so
have the
much.
floor. We're going to be leaving the floor for you. The next time you see me, we'll be rounding up at the time. So thank you for being here. And we are down back at the stage listening to you. My pen and my note is here. I can't wait.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, Now let me start this way. I find it an honor to be speaking at the Proactive Conference. Not just to be speaking, to be the first speaker. I know there are lined up of professionals, speakers I look forward to learning from, speakers I learned from, and then speakers will be joining hands together to share in this conference. So I find it an honor, and I'm privileged to be here, to share with us. Again, I want to thank you so much for the foresight, towards this conference. I want to thank you for the large heart you have for parents, and then equally for children. For a time like this, I think it's key that we have these conversations. Proactive parenting is not easy. Proactive parenting is not for everyone, largely because of how we were raised, where we are coming from. We are not coming from a place where parenting is evidence based. We're not coming from a place where, right, parenting has to recognize the unalienable rights, and then emotional expressions, right, of a child. So it's key that if we want to raise children that can appropriately navigate the society of today, that we are proactive as parents. So, and I'm so excited that I'll be laying the foundation for the conversations we'll be having for the next few days. For today, I will be talking about what children need to understand about their emotions, or what parents need to understand about their emotions. Now, it's important because the emotional expression of every human being lays the foundation of who they will become in life, right? When you take away the emotional development of a child, to a larger extent you are decapitating the healthy development of the child. The question is, how do we go about helping this child um develop emotionally, right? And then for adults who might have a skewed perspective of emotional development, how do they correct it? How do they correct it? And to do that, we need to understand where we are coming from. Where we are coming from, emotions are generally demonized. So let me make it practical. If a child is crying or throwing tantrum, right, for a lot of parents, the first expression will be to tell the child to keep quiet. While in other instances, for the parent, the child will be beaten for crying or throwing tantrum, even though tantrum are age appropriate emotional expressions, right? So, as a society, um, we are raised with the black and white binoculars of looking at emotion. So we feel some emotions are good, some emotions are bad. And then for emotions that are bad, we tend to punish you for expressing those emotions. And then for emotions that are good, we tend to embrace them. However, as proactive parents, we need to understand that no emotion is good or bad. Emotions are just states, emotions are just feedback, right? So as parents or as children, we need to recognize the fact that emotions are just feedback, emotions are just states, and a lot of times emotions are healthy, and the emotions are age appropriate, of course, depending on the developmental milestone of the child, where the child is now. Because the focus of this conference is for parents who are having little children, we need to understand that little children don't have the capacity to appropriately express their emotions. They don't have that capacity, right? So, first, as parents, what do we need to understand about the emotional expressions of children? And how do we help children grow up to be adults who have the right perspective about their emotions, and then how they express their emotions in a healthy way. There are three perspectives I'll be sharing with us today. The first perspective is the idea of validation. Now, every emotion needs to be validated, every emotion needs to be understood. Validating an emotion is not saying I'm giving a leeway to express these emotions no matter how it affects me or it affects other people. Validating these emotions is coming to that point where you realize that no, this person is going through some form of distress, right? Like I said, emotions are just states, emotions are just feedback, and a lot of times emotions are a form of adaptive or defensive mechanism to achieve emotional congruence. So to achieve congruence, there need to be some form of balance, and then the balance comes through the emotional expression. It's a form of it's an adaptive way of navigating emotional distress. So as a parent, you need to understand that what your child is expressing is age appropriate, what your child is expressing is healthy, and then what your child is expressing is a feedback. So that's the first perspective we need to understand about emotions. Every form of emotions need validation from us as parents. We need to understand, okay, this child is going through some form of distress, some form of distress, and then this child needs to understand what this distress is all about. And the second perspective we need to understand here is the idea of regulation. So after validating the emotions, we need to now understand the idea of regulating the emotions. Every form of distress is a call for regulation, right? Every form of distress is a call for regulation, because to a larger extent, when children express emotions, they are not doing it intentionally, or they are not doing it because they are skilled. Is like it's a form of is an adaptive response, and because it's an adaptive response, it's not a illogical behavior, right? Emotions are not coming from the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is that part of the brain responsible for logical, conclusions or activities. Emotions emanate largely from a place or a part of the brain called the amygdala, right? The amygdala is it's that part of the brain that tries to help you achieve emotional congruence. And then because it's a form of adaptive response, as parents, we need to know, how do I help this child regulate, achieve some form of emotional calm? And then that is key, because no child is born with regulatory skills. Regulatory skills are learned through modeling, and then it takes the parent to teach this child, to model this form of regulation the child needs to be able to appropriately understand and then express his or her emotions. Now, let me say this. Um, for emotions takes the brain, right? Like I said, from the amygdala, the emotion equally, comes from the nervous system. It's a form of, fight or flight response. That's why I said they are adaptive forms of expressions, from children. So as parents, we need to understand what are the neurobiological frameworks of emotions, and then what do I need to do to help this child regulate his nervous system, or to help this child effectively express his or her emotions. And then to do that, you need to understand how the brain works, you need to understand how the nervous system works, and then how to help this child regulate. So now let me break it down. If a child is throwing tantrum, right, and then you yell at the child, you tell the child keep quiet, you hush at the child, or you hit the child for throwing tantrum, which, like I said, is age appropriate. What you're doing is you are triggering the child the more. You're putting the child in a place of hyper vigilance or hyper arousal. You're not helping the child regulate. How you help the child regulate, how you help the child calm the nervous system, is by soothing the child. So by touching, by introducing rhythm, by how you communicate to the child, of course, your physiology. If you communicate to the child in a calm way, unconsciously the child will want to equally mirror how you're communicating to the child. And then by that way you're telling the child, listen, this is how you communicate your emotions, right? You don't express your emotions this way. This is how you express your emotions, right? How you communicate with the child. So it's key that after validating, you help the child regulate. And then the third perspective here in trying to help the child understand his or her emotions is education, validation, regulation, and education. Children need to be
The Proactive Parenting Academy invites you to a one-week-long parenting conference with 20 speakers from around the world: Nigeria, USA, UK, Sweden, Australia, Asia, amongst others. Theme: Proactive Parenting at a Time Like This. Date: 22nd August till 27th August 2022. Time: 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. daily. Venue: live on the Proactive Parenting Academy pages on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Speakers: Vivian Ijoma Ani, convener, Dr. Ife Obano, Dr. Vivian Okoye, Professor E.A. Itoma, Professor Umwacha Ogechukwu, Runke Adeniyi, Prince Alex Madujemo, Fina Chichi, Professor Henry Odianose Limonde, Sandra Oluwadare, Chris Chokonyeri, Deaconess Ijoma Uba Onjuku, Adeh Jones, Sheun David Olorinde, Nene Chinye Miriam Oluwagbonhu, Mohe Francis Oko, Mabeth Chima, Chinyere Obina, Meme Boham. Come, let's build more capacity for productive parenting.
Sorry, speaker is having a bit of network hitches. We'll be bringing him back again. We've already sent him message to reconnect back. Sorry about the network hitches. But while we wait for him, we can be having other conversations. Coach Adeh is talking about what a parent should know about emotions and what children also should know about emotions. But then children cannot know or would not know anything about emotions if their parents are not able to teach them using their own emotions. And he has said quite a number of things. Now we'll be sharing also the nuggets later after this conversation. And so if you look at our screen, you will see the information down on the screen about the Build Your Home Tribe. Build Your Home Tribe is an accountability circle for parents of young children where we break down these things that is being shared throughout the conference. You may just hear all of these things that you're hearing today and you get overwhelmed and you're watching and saying, how do I know? How do I get back? How do I understand this? How do I bring them into process? How do I break it down? How do I enter? And all of that. So these things are going to be okay. Our speaker is here. Welcome back, sir. Welcome back, sir.
Well, thank you so much. Sorry about my network here.
Sorry, your network. Yes, yes.
No, it's okay.
So
I
we'll be
had to
leaving
change the
the stage
device
again for
because
you.
the network here isn't strong. It's
All right,
okay.
all right. Thank you.
Once again, sorry about my network. It threw me out. Right before the network, I was sharing the three perspectives every parent needs to understand about their children expressing emotions. And then first we looked at validating the child's emotions. Instead of beating the child, instead of hushing the child, you need to understand why this child is sharing this form of emotions. We need to understand that this child is sharing these emotions, has an adaptive behavior. We need to understand the emotions this child is sharing is just a state. That's where the child is a manifestation of the emotional awareness of the child. If the child is going through emotional distress, the child will act it out, right? And then we said emotions are just feedback. Emotions are telling you where the child is emotionally. And then secondly, we talked about regulation. If the child is going through emotional distress, as a parent, your role is to help the child regulate right into congruence, the child to be calm, and then for the child to be able to take grabs and then manage what he or she is dealing with. If a child is in a phase of emotional distress, it becomes very difficult to get the best out of a child. Behaviors are state dependent, right? If you want to get the best out of a child, you can hardly get that when the child is struggling emotionally or when the child is in a form of emotional distress. But if the child is in a state of calm, in a state of congruence, in a state of alignment or attunement, it becomes very easy for you to get the best out of the child. And then the third perspective, I was talking about before the network threw me out, I said it's education. Children need to be educated on how to manage their emotions. And one of the best way to teach children or to educate them on how to express their emotions is by modeling how you express the emotions. If as a parent you are explosive and impulsive with your emotions, what you're telling the child is it's very okay to do that. Or better still, you're telling the child when you're going through emotional distress, when you're angry, when you're frustrated, act it out violently, right? If as a parent, when you're triggered, if your child does something you don't like, if you hit the child, what you're telling the child is whenever you're angry or whenever people, behave in ways that doesn't align with your expectations, it's very okay to hit because children express what they experience. Children express what they experience. If a child experiences pain, if a child experiences control, if a child experiences fear-based approaches, of nurturing, the child will equally recycle that form of behavior and treatment on others. So the child will equally hit other people. A child will show little remorse or empathy toward the emotions of other people, right? If we want to raise children who are empathetic, if you want to raise children who have an idea of how to express their emotions, if you want to have, if you want to raise children who respect the emotional boundary and spaces of other people, we need to first treat these children this way. How you treat a child depends on how this child treats him or herself. So now that is key. If a child is deprived of being educated on how to navigate his or her emotions, three things will happen. First, the child will struggle with his or her emotions, right? The child will struggle with guilt. The child will struggle with shame. The child will struggle with accommodating the emotional expressions of other people. Secondly, the child will grow up to be narcissistic. The child will grow up to be to have little respect for the emotions of other people. If you don't validate the emotions of a child, the child wouldn't develop that capacity to validate the emotions of other people. And then thirdly, as a community, we suffer more when a child lacks the awareness of navigating his emotional journey. So it's very key that as parents, We understand these three perspectives in order to help our children. Now, as parents, what do we need to do? As parents, equally, we need to understand the benchmark of our emotions, right? How you feel isn't because of external factors. How you feel is because of internal triggers and factors. So, for example, if your child throws tantrum, for a lot of parents, right, they find it very hard embracing the emotional expression of their children. Let me use one of the examples of emotional expressions. Let me use tantrum. If your child throws tantrum, not not all parents have developed the awareness and capacity to accommodate children who throw tantrums, right? For a lot of parents, tantrum triggers them, right? Triggers them. They are angry. They are quick to hurt the child. Like I said, something hit the child for throwing tantrum, right? They threaten the child. They withdraw privileges. They give the child tantrum. Like I said, for each appropriate emotional responses. Now, why are you angry that your child is crying? Is it because of the cry? No. A lot of time it's a trigger. It's a trigger. Now, why are you getting triggered? Again, it could be because of the idea of losing control. So, a lot of times, the emotional expressions of your child will trigger you, right? You feel helpless. You feel as if you're losing control. But you need to understand how you feel isn't because of your child. How you feel is just a feedback. So what you need to do is you need to take a few steps backwards and then ask yourself, why am I feeling triggered? What is happening to me? What is the message? So for you as a parent, you need to understand that how you feel is a form of communication. How you feel is a feedback. And then you need to ask yourself, what is the feedback? Secondly, regulation. How do you regulate your emotions? Have you developed the skill to be able to, right, appropriately navigate your triggers or emotional expressions? How do you feel when you're angry? How do you feel when you're frustrated? What do you need to do to regulate yourself when you're angry? What do you need to do to regulate yourself when you're frustrated? What do you need to do to regulate yourself when you're feeling shameful or when you're feeling guilty? These are all feedback, and then there are skills you need to learn to regulate yourself. And then the third, you need to educate yourself about the panoramic expressions of emotions, right? Emotions should teach us. Emotions shouldn't make us helpless or put us in a box. We should be educated about why children express emotions. We should be educated about their developmental milestones. We should be educated about the brain response to emotions, and then equally the child's nervous system to expressing emotions. We need to understand ourselves. We need to know the strength of our emotional mastery, and then we need to develop emotional intelligence, emotional mastery, whichever way we need to educate ourselves. So for me, um, this is the foundation of what we have to start learning during this proactive conference. We need to first understand that emotions are normal, emotions are healthy, they are just states, and they are feedback, whether for us as parents or for the children. And we don't need to demonize the emotions of children. We don't need to make them feel bad or make them feel miserable because they're expressing certain forms of emotions. But we need to understand that the emotion they express tells us the emotional struggle they are going through. And when children are going through emotional struggle or distress, they need help, not retribution. No child should be beaten for expressing emotions. No child should be beaten because he's angry, because he's frustrated, or because he's throwing trauma. I'm not saying you're permitting that. I'm just saying the child needs help, and then the child needs you to model how he or she needs to behave differently. And then, more importantly, the child needs to be educated on how well he or she needs to express his emotions. Right now, I know for a parent, it will take skill, it will take training, and then it will take being around a community that shares this perspective that the emotions of a child need to be honored, and then the child needs to be taught. And then that's why you're in this conference. That's why Coach Vivian has brought us all here, right? Not just to come and learn, but to network with ourselves as like minds, as parents who wants to develop better emotional awareness on how to help our children, and then how to help ourselves. So thank you so much for following. Like I said, these are just this is the foundation. Other speakers will build on this, and then they'll share perspective that will help us connect the dots as we navigate this journey of learning in the Proactive Parenting Conference. So thank you so much for following. I will stop here. If you have questions you want to ask, if you want us to contextualize all I've shared, please, the floor is open, and I will gladly respond to our question. Thank you so much, Coach, for having me share.
Thank you so much. This is explosive. I know that other speakers will really build on this. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all you've shared,
Thank you so much.
from your heart for proactive parents. So we'll be taking questions, and then you'll be giving us feedback on the questions. So we'll be looking at the comments to check for questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I just saw so many comments where people were making requests of a switch of network. Maybe at the time the network was having issues. So the first question here, Coach, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Jane George says, please, a 12 years old boy in my street committed suicide as a result of depression. Please, what could cause, or what could be the cause? I don't know if you can see the screen. It's on the screen already.
Okay. I've gotten the question, and I've seen the question on the screen.
Okay.
Can I respond?
Yes, please.
Okay. I think let's start this way. If you say a child committed suicide because of depression, right? Invariably, what you're saying is you now have an idea of what has led to the suicide. And then if you say depression, we all know there are deeper reasons to depression, right? Nurturing practice can lead to depression. Neurobiological influences can lead to depression, right? Lack of skill to navigate emotional distress can lead to depression, right? So there are a lot of factors that can lead to depression that at this level we might not know. However, what we need to understand is it means at this level the 12-year-old was going through so much emotional or neurobiological turmoil that his parents or the adults in his life didn't know any better about how to help him or how to guide him navigate this phase. Now, let me say this at this juncture. If your child is less than 12, please prioritize emotional alignment with the child. You need to be available in the life of this child so that you can be able to decode if the child is going through emotional struggles or not, right? As a parent, you will know when your child is not acting well. You will know when the child is not in emotional alignment with you, right? um Children who go through depression or children who are going through emotional distress, they always show signals. They always show signal. They show emotional signal, they show social signal, they show mental signal, they show physical signal. You will know that something isn't right, right? No child needs to go through so much emotional distress alone to the point where it leads to this painful point of, well, taking his or her life. This is painful. I believe experiences like this can be avoided if parents are emotionally attuned with the child, and then if parents are skilled enough to help this child. And then secondly, and then that's why we're having this conference. I think as parents, we need to develop the skill to be able to decode when children are going through emotional distress, and then how to help them. When the child is going through distress, we need to realize that it's not the time for retribution. It's not the time to tell you, stop crying. It's not the time to say stop expressing. No, you don't have to stop the child. You need to understand what the child is going through. You need to help the child navigate that phase. Don't need to be taught to bottle how they feel. When a child learns to bottle how he feels because he feels those around him will not understand what he's struggling with, it leads to a deeper concern when the child grows up. And then I believe that's why we're having this conference, so that we know how to equip ourselves. When we equip ourselves, we help our children better. I don't know if I've responded to Jane George's question.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yes.
Okay. We
Okay.
have the next question, coach.
We have the next question, coach.
It's okay.
It's on the screen.
It's on the screen.
Okay. I'm trying to look at the screen. Okay, this from Okay Ugu. What's your view on
Yeah.
parents taking their young kids to gardens that are for adults? Is that an act of love or exposing them to some character deformations? Okay, now let's say this. I believe that because this is the proactive parenting conference, we're going to say it like it is, right? Not all places are for children. Not all contents are for children. Not all experiences are for children, right? So as adults, we need to know which experiences are age appropriate, which gathering is for children. There are some gatherings that right, they're not age appropriate. There are some gatherings that sexualize children. There are some gatherings that expose the children to inappropriate information. Children don't need to be there, right? Children don't need to be there. When we expose them to this kind of influences and experiences, we expose them to deeper challenges that they don't have the capacity to handle. Don't forget, for children, their brain is still developing. They are still impressive. They've not developed the skill yet to be able to navigate environment that are inappropriate to handle content and informations that are not appropriate. So I think what we need to do, we need to understand which environment is age appropriate and then which isn't, and then let's protect the mind of these children. At this level, parenting is reforming the mind of a child. If we expose a child to influences that corrupt the child's mind, it leads to a deeper problem. And then I believe that as parents, we can do better by inoculating our children kind of space or places.
Okay. Thank you so much, coach.
Thank you so
Your
much,
audience
coach.
are raving at you.
Your audience are
That this
raving at you.
this coach is loaded, man.
This coach is loaded, man.
Thank you
But
so
you have
much. I'm
we
humbled
have
by
another
them.
question here, and I think you need to
It's okay, man.
answer this one too.
Answer this one, too.
Dr. Gift is asking a
From
question. It's on the
Onyekachig.
screen. Yeah.
Dr. Gift.
Okay.
The question is on screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
My children are age 8, 6, and 5. I want them to be careful in all they do. I do not tolerate mistakes.
Tolerate.
Tolerate.
Yeah, I do not tolerate mistakes. Okay, I think she's sharing a comment, right? And then
She's
let me
sharing her
share.
own.
Sharing her own.
Okay, she's sharing
Can
her
you
own
hear me?
perspective.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I
Yes,
can
as
hear
in her
you.
fears.
Yes, as in
Her
her fears.
fears.
Her
Oh,
fears.
okay, now let me say this, Dr. Onyekachi. With children, we need to accommodate the fact that they don't know any better, right? We need to understand we need to be there for them. I like the fact that you want to make sure that they behave well. However, we need to equally be patient with them at this stage. Children at age 5, age 8, age 9, they are still impulsive, right? They will still remain children. They are not adults, and then we don't have to put so much pressure on them to become adult. In trying to do that, we deprive them of being children, and then we parentify them. Parentify means a child is a child, but we want the child to be an adult when the child is still a child. So we need to take it one step at a time with children. At this level, you have children who wants to explore. At this level, you have children who are trying to individuate. They want to understand their sense of self. They want to understand the extent of their freedom. And then, in trying to understand the extent of their freedom, they will try things out, right? And in trying things out, of course, there will be mistake. Let's try as much as possible to know how to guide them so that the freedom to experiment doesn't lead a problem to themselves and then to ourselves. And then, however, that fear that we don't want them to make mistakes shouldn't deprive them of exhibiting childhood that allows them form the skills to be responsible adults. So once again, thank you, Onyekachi Gift, for your comment and that desire to parent, proactively.
She's also sending thank you so
She's
much
also sending
to
thank you
you
so much
for the session
to
and all
you
that you have
for
shared.
the session and
All the
all that
comment
you have
section is
shared.
filled with
Thank you so
love
All the
much.
comment section
emojis.
is
They are
filled with
shared,
love
sending their love emojis
emojis. They
and
are
saying
shared,
thank you,
sending
Coach
their love
Ade. We are
emojis
Thank you
grateful.
and
so
saying thank
much.
you,
Thank
Coach
you
Ade.
for
We are
being
grateful.
here.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
So since we don't have any questions, we can
So since we don't have any
allow
questions, we
you
can
go at this moment
allow you go at this moment
while
It's
we get
okay.
ready for
While I stay, I only
while
learn
we get ready for.
from the other speakers.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
sir.
I'm here. I'm happy to share, and then I'm equally happy to wait behind and then to learn. God bless you.
And you too. Thank you. So, guys, this is first session, and you can all see how loaded this session was. Send in the link to all your family and friends. Send out link to your circle. Get others in here. We all need to learn. We all need to understand. You can see questions that are coming in. These are all our fears. We are in this together. So bring in all your family and friends. Let everybody know that there's something happening here. I keep saying it. The world understands systems and they understand the importance of awareness. Share this awareness, create it everywhere in your circle and everywhere. Send it around. Share the YouTube link, your YouTube channel link. Let everyone around you know that something is happening here. And then for all of us that are here, please subscribe so you don't have any hitches, trying to listen to these sessions in all the live stream. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. We'll be having the next speaker come up here in the few more minutes from now, and then this link will also be shared in the group. God bless you and see you in the next speaker in the next session in a moment. Thank you very much.